Okay, I think we can get started. Let's start with the grounding. If we can put our phones on silent mode, please. Turn off notifications. Find your feet on the floor, and I'll guide you through a short 2-minute breathing meditation, and then we can get started. Sense if your back is straight. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes or just lower your gaze and bring your attention to your breathing. Let's connect with ourselves. Just notice how you're breathing today. Notice how fast or slow you are breathing, how deep or shallow you are breathing. And now let's connect with each other by synchronizing our breathing. I'll tell you what I'm doing, see if you can follow along. Let's breathe in and breathe out. We breathe in, let go. One more time, breathing in and releasing. Come back to normal breathing. Now let's take a moment to connect with the divine, something a little more evolved than us, and say a small prayer asking it to come and be with us, to guide us, to protect us, and to show us the way. Slowly come back to your breathing. Become aware of the space around you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, welcome everyone. I see many familiar faces, and I'm also seeing a few new people. So a big welcome to everyone.
Thank you.
These are going to be weekly sessions. We'll be meeting at this time every week on Saturdays. And it's going to be for 1 hour, I think, right? First time I'm doing it. Let's see how I can keep to that time. Yeah. I have a short deck that I've prepared for today. Let me take you through that. Yeah. Let me share my screen. You should be seeing my screen. It says bits of Vedic philosophy. Yeah. So what is this all about? There are many entry points to understanding Vedic philosophy, right? And this can usually become a little overwhelming. So I want to take up one idea at a time and see how we can apply that to our lives, right? Keep it very relevant, very practical, and applicable, right? So in each session, I want to take up one idea. Yeah? Hopefully, I'll be able to manage that. Sometimes we may need 2 sessions for one idea, but let's see how that goes. Yeah? These will be weekly webinars, and they will all be online, right? India time is 3:30 to 4:30. I know many have joined in from Europe. It is 11 to 12 noon, and depends on daylight saving. Yeah. Now, these sessions will be modular. That means you can attend any session, right? You don't need to have caught up on the sessions that you miss in order to attend any particular session. You can join any week, and if life comes in the way, it's totally okay. It happens, right? There's no completion over here, right? There is no certification over here, right? Even 1 week, if you can attend, that's fantastic. Yeah? And in each session, I want you to ask yourself, what is the one thing you can do that week based on what we are sharing over here, right? If you're not able to apply it, then something is off. Yeah, either in the way I'm explaining it or in the way you are receiving it. Yeah? Application is key. Yeah? Now, many of you are studying with me in different programs, and there are new faces that I'm seeing also. And considering that this is almost like the first time that we are doing sessions like this, I need to give you an overview so then all of us are on the same page. Yeah? An overview of Indic wisdom, an overview of what we call as Vedic philosophy. Yeah? And for those of you who are familiar with what I'm going to share now, there is something new I'm going to come up with at the end of this. So see if you can still stay with me as I share this. Yeah? Indic wisdom is broadly seen under 6 branches. Yeah? Vedic philosophy under 6 branches. They are very Sanskrit terms, but I'll give you the meaning of each. There is Shruti, yeah? There is Smriti, Itihasa, Purana, Agama, and Darshana. Yeah? And these scriptures span thousands of years, right? It's not that it was written in a particular decade or a particular year. They span thousands of years. So you can imagine, the change in culture, but the thought was always consistent. Okay? What is that thought? If we start with Shruti, Shruti basically means what I hear, what was heard, right? By these sages, by these ancient sages, what did they hear? What was that voice telling them? All that is classified as Shruti. Right? Now, over here, there are 3 subcategories. One is what we know as the Vedas. We are all familiar with the 4 Vedas, at least by name. Second is what is known as the Upa Vedas, which is secondary knowledge. Okay? Primary knowledge, Vedas is the primary knowledge, Upa Vedas is the secondary knowledge, and the Vedangas is tertiary knowledge or the limbs of the Vedas. Right? What do I mean by primary, secondary, and tertiary? Anything that helps me discover who I am truly is primary knowledge. That is what the Vedas are concerned with. Anything that supports that journey to helping me discover who I am is a secondary knowledge. It comes under Upaveda. The limbs meaning arms and legs of the Vedas are the Vedangas. So the Vedangas helps the Vedas achieve their goal. Yeah, and the goal is self-realization, to realize my true nature. Right? Knowledge of physics and chemistry is not helping me unless it helps me realize who I am. It is not classified as primary knowledge, as Vedic knowledge. Right? Now the Vedas are the Rig, the Yajur, the Sama, and the Atharva Veda. Now in some of these sessions, we will be taking up sutras, verses from some of these Vedas. The Rig Veda gives hymns and prayers. The Yajur gives instructions for conducting a sacrifice, for praying to the divine. The Sama Veda, it's the same mantras that are sung and in a song format. The Atharva Veda is about everyday life. Right? How do we live day-to-day life, broadly speaking? Okay? Now, each of these Vedas has 4 components. Right? It has the Samhita, which are the rituals, Brahmanas, which gives the commentary on the rituals. Why should you pour ghee into the fire? Say, for instance, you're doing a fire yajna, fire sacrifice. Why? How do you pour ghee into the fire? Is given in the Brahmanas. The Aranyakas gives you the esoteric meaning. What does fire symbolize? What does ghee symbolize? What does it mean when you're pouring ghee into the fire? What is it symbolic of? The esoteric meaning is given in the Aranyakas. The philosophy is given in the Upanishads. Yeah. All 4 Vedas will have all these 4. Now, this is primary knowledge, and this was heard by the sages. Right? It's not transmitted person to person, the original source. So we say the Vedas don't have an author. They are authorless because the original author was something that was not human. Yeah? All of the Shruti is authorless. Now, the Upavedas, we are familiar with Ayurveda. Anything that helps with the health of the person comes under Ayurveda, but that's the Upaveda. It is secondary knowledge. It is supporting the Vedas to accomplish their aim. It is supporting the person to realize themselves. There is Dhanurveda, which is about how to protect this body, all about warfare. There is Gandharva Veda, which is all about sound and music. There is Arthashastra, which is about managing societies, managing cultures, managing villages, whatever was back then. All this comes under the Upavedas. Then we have the Vedangas, which starts with how do you pronounce the words of Sanskrit. Pronunciation is super important in Sanskrit. If the pronunciation is right, only then will the mantra have its power. Will the ritual be effective? The pronunciation, and by pronunciation, I also mean intonation. I also mean the extent, the duration of each syllable. All of that comes under the Vedangas. There is Vyakarana, which is about the grammar of Sanskrit. The Chandas, which deals with the rhythm and meter. Meter meaning how many syllables in each mantra. Yeah? There are different mantras with different number of syllables. You need to use a different meter depending on the deity, depending on the intention behind the mantra. All that gets explained in the Chandas. There is the Nirukta, which defines the words of Sanskrit. And that definition is very important when we speak about, when we go into the Upanishads, for instance, or the Vedas, right? To understand where the word comes from, the original source of each word, the root of each word. We also have Jyotish over here, which deals with astrology and astronomy, planets and stars. How do you make sense of life on Earth based on how the planets and stars are placed? And then we have the Kalpa, which gives you instruction for rituals. So this is the Shruti component of the Vedas, what was heard. In the second branch over here, we have the Smriti, which is what was remembered. There is the Manusmriti, which is the code of conduct, the do's and don'ts, the rules in a particular era of time, what we call as the Satya Yuga, a large duration of time. What were the rules for people in that particular period of time? Is given in the Manusmriti. The Parashara Smriti gives us the rules of conduct in our present day times. What can we do? What should we not do? What are the boundaries for people, for societies, given in the Parashara Smriti for Kali Yuga? There is Yajnavalkya, which gives you religious duty. As a religion, what can we do? What should we not do in this particular religion? And there are many others that have been lost. Now, this is Smriti, which is only for particular durations of time, what we call as Yuga Dharma. Yuga meaning an era of time, and Dharma meaning duty, a simple translation for the word. Now, Yuga Dharma, which is Smriti, is different from Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means eternal. The eternal duty of an individual is given in the Shruti. At a very broad level, the eternal duty of humans is to realize our true nature, that which we have forgotten, who we are. That is Sanatan Dharma. So Shruti is what was heard, Smriti is what was remembered by the sages, and then we have the Itihasa, which is what actually happened. Right? A loose translation is history. What actually happened? Now there are two scriptures over here. One is the Ramayana, right? It is a Itihasa. It actually happened. This happened in the Treta Yuga. Right? The second Itihasa is the Mahabharata, which happened in the Dwapar Yuga, another period of time. Right now, many of us are familiar with the Gita, which was spoken in the Mahabharata, right? And it's also called the Gita Upanishad. Gita Upanishad. So the Gita is actually classified as an Upanishad. Just giving you a large overview, and I'm going quite fast through this. And once I complete, I'll open the floor for questions. After Itihasa, we have the Puranas, which are stories from very old times. Yeah? We have the Mahapuranas, which are stories of Vishnu, of Shiva, of Krishna, which is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we have the Upapuranas, which are smaller stories of Ganesha, of Narasimha, of Saura, of Samba, all the deities of Vedic culture. Right? There are additional Puranas also, many of these also have been lost over time. Puranas are the stories of the gods, stories of the deities. Then we have the Agamas, which is, we have the Vaishnava, which is the worship of Vishnu. Everything about worship in this material plane comes under the Agamas. We have the Shaiva Agamas, so Kashmir Shaivism comes under the Agamas, and we also have Tantra, which comes under the Agamas, right? Worship of Shakti, worship of the feminine principle, the Tantra, comes under Agamas. So you'll see that the Agama branch is a completely separate branch from the Vedic, from the Vedas, which comes under the Shruti. It's a different approach to the same goal, right? How do we discover who we really are? Then we have the Darshanas. Darshan means to see. So Darshanas is about seeing, observations. It's a different form of philosophy, starting with Nyaya, which is logic. We have Vaisheshika, which goes to the essence of trying to understand something. What is the core meaning behind something? In fact, there's a lot of quantum physics that is explained in Vaisheshika, of the atoms, of the nucleus, about the interaction between these. All this comes under Vaisheshika. We have Sankhya philosophy, also known as Dvaita philosophy, which comes under the Darshanas. Dvaita meaning two. So this is a philosophy where we say that the individual is separate from God. There's a duality. Comes under Sankhya. There is yoga, which comes under the Darshanas. So everything about the asanas, Patanjali, Yoga Sutras, all of that comes under the Yoga Darshana. We have Purva Mimamsa, which talks about rituals, very similar to the Vedas, but a later period. Uttara Mimamsa, which is Advaita philosophy. Advaita means there is no duality. The individual and the divine are the same. Right? That comes under Advaita philosophy. So, very broadly, this is the scope of Vedic philosophy. It is exhaustive, right? And this is what can get overwhelming. We don't know where to start. We don't know what is talking about what. And this is what I would like to take up in our weekly sessions. Right? Starting with this one here. I want to see how we can apply this to our day-to-day lives. But before we go there, let's just take a step back, right? Okay, let me pause. Any questions over here? Did I go too fast? Or any thoughts, any questions before we go forward? You can raise your hands in Teams. Yes, Smriti.
Hi. I was wondering if there's also Smritis for Dwapar Yog and the other yog. Sorry, I'm forgetting. Because I know there's one for Sat Yog and Kal Yog.
Yeah. So the Smriti that is mostly used is Parashara Smriti itself. Some say that for Kali Yuga, it is Narada Smriti, but it is debated. For Treta Yuga, Yajnavalkya is what is used as the Smriti, and for Satya Yuga, it is Manusmriti. So for Dwapar, it's either Parashara or Narada Smriti. So people debate between these two.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's take a step back and look at each of these branches as to what they are trying to accomplish. If I look at all the Shrutis, right, that is the first branch, what I'm finding is that, if I take the Upanishads there or Jyotish Shastra there, it is about reflections of some kind. It is about the search for meaning. It is searching for clarity. It is trying to find direction. If I have to kind of summarize all of the Shruti, right, in 2 lines, this is the common theme that I'm finding. If I compare this with the Smriti is giving the rules on how to live, the do's and don'ts, the boundaries, the restrictions, the limitations, and the consequences of actions. If you do this, this is what needs to happen. Manusmriti especially, there's a lot of that. Consequences for actions. If I look at the Itihasas and the Puranas, it is all about stories. So we read about the story of Rama or the story of Krishna or the story of Vishnu. It is only stories. So it's like learning from what has happened to others, to the gods. What did Rama go through? Learning from observing, from watching others. The Agamas, for me, it's all about rituals and routines and daily practices. In fact, temples in Vedic culture comes under the Agamas because it's all about the form, right? The Shruti is the formless. So anything with the form comes under the Agamas. Devotion, very much for me, part of the Agama tradition. Prayer comes under the Agama tradition. The Darshanas, if you look at Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, it's all about questioning your assumptions. Examining our beliefs. What is the logic? What is it that's happening over here? And let's really look at something, right? That is the Darshana. I want to pause here. Any thoughts on this? Because now we are going to apply it, right? So what are your thoughts on this? Anything else you would add to this? Okay. If nothing, then you take a screenshot of this or take a photo of this on your phone. Everyone's done. Okay, we are going to apply this to life. Okay. I would like you to think about a situation or an issue that you are facing. It could be work related. It could be a relationship issue. It could be a decision you're avoiding. If you have paper and pen, can you write down maybe 1 or 2 issues, situations? Now, I would like us to work in breakout rooms, so then we get to share. First, very briefly, just name the situation. It's a work issue. Sufficient. Right? We don't need to go into the details. Second, I'd like you to reflect on what is your usual approach, your default pattern, default way of addressing such an issue. Yeah? Are you searching for rules? Are you searching for advice? Do you overthink the situation? Are emotions coming in the way? Do you tend to go into action, or are you avoiding? What is your default pattern to approaching a situation in your life? In this particular case, in this situation. Yeah. Next, what are you not seeing? And here we take the overview, the 6 branches of Vedic philosophy: reflection, rules and structures, learning from others, practices, routines, or questioning your assumptions, inquiry. Right? You have that screenshot. Look at the usual approach and then see which branch is not your go-to. You don't need to know anything about Vedic philosophy, but the intention behind each branch is what I'm referring to. Yeah? Now, based on that, what you are not seeing, can you identify one small thing you can try out this week? Any questions over here before I open the breakout rooms? Yes, Kavita.
Hi, Vikram. So
Hi.
I've understood till point number 3. Okay,
Yeah.
that what is your usual approach to addressing this? But I cannot understand point number 4. What are you not seeing? And if you can
Sure.
explain that a little more in detail, I'm lost from here. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back one slide.
Yeah.
So each of these branches, they have a certain way of addressing that goal, the goal being realizing oneself, right? But they have a particular mode, right? The method that the Shruti uses is to make you reflect, is to make you think, is to make you search for meaning, is to make you ask yourself what is going on, right? Which is very different from the Smriti. The method used in the Smriti is giving you rules and structures, giving you do's and don'ts. Yeah? So if I'm someone that needs structure, then the Smriti becomes my go-to, that method of trying to find an answer. Let's establish a structure. What are the boundaries for the situation? Right? What should I do? What should I not do? Searching for rules. That's the method used by the Smriti. Itihasa and Purana use a different approach. They're saying, this is what happened to them. To Rama, to Krishna, to Ganesha, whoever. Watch. Learn from their stories. So in this method, it's about observing the lives of other people. I want us to apply all this to the situation that you are facing. Are you searching for meaning? Are you sitting and reflecting on the issue? Or are you searching for rules and boundaries when you try to address that issue? Or are you looking around with your peers and saying, this is what happened to him, so maybe this is what I need to do? What is your default method of addressing that issue?
Yeah, so you could be doing 2 things also. It's not necessarily
Sure.
you follow. Yeah.
Sure.
Follow one.
Yeah, you can be doing all. You can be doing all. You need to first become aware of what is your default method.
Okay.
Yeah. Once you become aware of that, then you ask yourself, what are you not seeing? What are you not doing over here?
In your default method.
Yeah.
Okay.
In your default, yeah. What are you not doing? Come back to this. Right? For instance, very rarely do I question my assumptions about the situation. Maybe you keep questioning assumptions and beliefs. Different method. The intention here is to open a different way to solving, addressing that situation you're facing.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So shall we take 10 minutes and then we can come back and maybe share, right? And welcome back, people. We're in the main room now. So how was it? Was it a very tricky question? What happened? And one or two of you share how the process was for you.
For me, it was
Go ahead, Kiran.
for me it was about timing for my personal work, which is related to my studies and all, and my backlog. And so I find some solution about the boundaries and do and don't do like. But when we are in the family, it is also about the other people, emotions and sensitivity.
So what were you not seeing? Was there any branch of Vedic philosophy that you don't usually go to?
Yeah, that is the number 2 Vedic philosophy. I read that is the number 2, not Vedas, the Smriti.
The do's and don'ts.
And boundaries. So I need to apply that.
You need to apply it. Okay, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Suchit, you had raised your hand.
Thank you, Vikram. At least in our room, the discussion was very good. Most of us could relate to our default setting very easily. I mean, it comes to us very intuitively, and we could also see, where we want to have a connection amongst the 6 branches from the Indic system. But it was rather difficult to identify what is one thing that we could do to change the habit, right? Maybe there is a pattern from our default settings, but to break that habit and to bring something new is rather difficult.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Let me just share this again. So the way to, or at least my intention when I said identify one small thing you can do, is to look at what you have not been doing. Right? So let's say, for instance, when I try to solve a problem, I'm going with rules and boundaries. What are my restrictions? What should I do? What should I not do? That means I'm not learning from others. I'm not seeing how others may have solved that problem. So can I search for similar stories online, YouTube, of a podcast, of people who have tried to solve this problem? Can I learn from them? I'm trying to implement the Itihasa and Purana method of teaching. So whatever you have not done, can you find a small action there? For instance, can you check your assumptions about the problem, if that is not something that you generally do, the darshanas? Right? What are the beliefs? Maybe I'm coming at this problem from a belief of scarcity, that I don't have enough. Can I question my assumptions? The idea is simple. If what you are doing was able to solve the problem, you wouldn't have picked it now. You have picked up a situation because your usual method is not doing the job. Does that help, Sujit?
It does. Thank you, Vikram.
Yeah. So I'm conscious of time. I know there are people who would like to share. Let me close this. I have one closing slide, right? And then I can open it up to questions, right? This is an important one. Yeah. And usually in one way or another, I would like us to apply whatever we speak about, in these sessions. Yeah. And over here, questions number 3 and 4, right? What is your usual approach? What are you not seeing in your usual approach? Right? That holds the key to finding a different perspective to your situation. Yeah. Now, if in all these breakout rooms, one thing that I forgot to mention, and I think is very important, is that you should not, let's not go into a space of asking for advice from our colleagues, right? This is not a space for giving suggestions or advising to another. Breakout rooms are only for voicing what you are going through, right? And when we put it in words, there's another clarity that comes, right? So it's only for sharing and not for advising or consulting, right? That this is not the space for that. Yeah. Okay. If this is something that interests you, please come back next week. There are also other programs on the same platform on online.allthingsvedic.in. You can explore the pre-recorded videos in Snippets itself. This is part of Snippets, the first program that's over here, but there are other programs as well. I also offer in-person retreats not online, but we meet in person. For instance, the next retreat that's coming up is Mercury and Jupiter, where we try to feel Mercury and Jupiter in our lives, in our bodies. There are prerequisites for this, so if you're interested in attending, just reach out to me. We're also offering a retreat in Austria in May. There are no prerequisites for that, just that your calendar has to be open. If that's something that interests you, you can let me know. I offer a webinar every month on the Vedic astrology transit chart. It's called Preparing for the Month Ahead. The next one is on the 8th of February. It's a Sunday. So you can see if that interests you. I also offer consultations, and this is my WhatsApp number in case you'd like to reach out to me. This is what I had planned for today. I did see a hand go up. I think it was Meeta. Would you like to share, Meeta?
Yes, actually, I did put up my hand, but immediately after that, your example was exactly what I wanted to know. Because, yeah, like it was not using the Puranas and all, and I was wondering, like, how do I go ahead with that? So you answered that. So thank you so much.
Okay. The floor is open. Any questions, any thoughts, any sharings? I'll be happy to hear. And given that this was the first session, I'd like to know if this is a format that you would like to continue with, right? Or if there are any changes. It's the first time I'm doing this, so I'll be happy for feedback.
Personally, I'm very excited about it.
Meeta and then Hemambika.
I was saying personally, I'm very excited about it. My only thing is that I'm still trying to grapple with all that came on that sheet, the very first one. So as we go ahead, will we be able to take it in, or do you want us to be ready with it when we come next time?
No, you don't need to be ready with anything, right? So, I shared that in 20 minutes, right? For me, it has taken me several years to understand that structure, right? So it's totally fine, no problem at all, right? I will keep showing you that because I'll have to orient you to what we are doing each session, right? So sometimes we may take a verse from the Gita, which is part of the Itihasa. Sometimes we may take something from the Upanishads, which is part of the Shruti. So I'll give you that as a wayfinder map, right, to tell you where we are. But there's nothing you need to remember, right? You have the whole week, right? Yeah? Okay. Shall we just breathe and then we can close today's call? When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you in a week.
Thank you.
Bye then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.